Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today is the 14th of April 2021. Right, everyone. Today is a very big day for the crypto ecosystem. I'm sure, many of you are aware that Coinbase is a direct listing on the stock exchange in the US today. But before I dive into all of that, I did want to point out that ETH's price action's been pretty great lately, right? We're at fresh all-time highs. I think the latest all-time high is around $2,400 here. We've come down a bit from there, of course, but I think obviously this price rise can be mostly attributed to the Coinbase hype, right? But also the fact that a lot of us believe that ETH has been undervalued for quite a while now. But yeah, obviously it's been going up for a little while. I'm not sure, how frothy it's going to get from here. I think it depends on what happens with Coinbase. So yeah, I think just wanted to kind of point that out and just kind of do a bit of a celebration on the video today. But I think the real news to talk about is, of course, Coinbase going live on the stock exchange here with the ticker COIN. So Fred Ursum, one of the co-founders of Coinbase, put together this really nice thread here. You can go read it. It'll be linked in the YouTube description, but it basically talks about the history of Coinbase here. And I wrote about kind of like what I think is going to happen today and why this is such a watershed moment for crypto in the newsletter. But essentially, I think Coinbase is its valuation is going to be really high. It's $150 billion or something like that. That's going to be worth more than a lot of US banks. So, some of them including Goldman Sachs and even non-US banks like HSBC. It's going to be worth more than them. It's going to be worth more than popular fintech companies like Square. And then, when you really kind of take all that into account, I think it's going to really take people, off guard, right? And shock them, especially people that don't pay attention to crypto, think it's a scam or think it's a fad or whatever. And then you have this pure play crypto company that is literally 97% or something of their revenues, something high like that, comes from crypto trading, is going to be worth more than some US banks, right? $150 billion plus. Like, I'm expecting it to kind of, go much higher than that. But, from that point of view, you kind of look at that and you're like, okay, well, this is going to legitimize the asset class as a whole, because there's going to be so many doubters and so many people who thought it was a fad. They're now probably going to think to themselves, wow, like, did I miss something here? Like, holy crap, I thought Bitcoin and Ethereum were dead, right? I thought all this stuff was dead. I thought it wasn't gonna go anywhere. I didn't think people were making money out of this. I didn't think there was real businesses here. And obviously there is, right? Obviously there's billions of dollars being made every single day by the entire ecosystem, made and lost, depending on what you're doing. But from that point of view, I think that's what's going to cause the kind of paradigm shift here and that kind of watershed moment for the asset class in general. Now, of course, a lot of Coinbase's growth is tied to the growth of the crypto markets. So if the crypto markets cool down, then Coinbase will cool down as well. But I do think that Coinbase will become a nice little index product, like not a literal index product, but like a kind of like signal to show like how, I guess, well the crypto markets are doing in general, like how hot the markets are at any given time, and kind of like the health of the overall markets as well. So that's another kind of positive thing there. And on top of that, I also think that Coinbase will continue growing, and I do think it's going to be $1 trillion company eventually. And that's just that sort of stuff is just like such an amazing story as well. Like, Coinbase has a really great story behind it. I mean, Fred says some stuff about that in his thread here. But if you just think about it, it was a company that started, literally out of like a 2-bedroom apartment, as Fred says here. It was launched when Bitcoin was only worth $6, so basically nothing. The asset class was literally, back then it was just majority Bitcoin was being used to buy drugs off Silk Road. Like, that's not a secret. And it was basically a thing for like people really deep into the cypherpunk movement to kind of play around with. So, there was this company that launched back then. The early investors took a massive bet because crypto was in no way a sure thing back then. Like 2012, I mean, definitely very, very risky. So investors took a massive bet on this company back then, and obviously they're being rewarded for that now. But just that story is going to be something that I think mainstream media really wants to tell. They really want to, hype up because it speaks to, I guess, the American dream, right? A US-based company started from a 2-bedroom apartment, turned into like a multi-$100 billion company now. Right, off the back of this kind of crazy crypto thing that's in the news, because we have like obviously NFTs blowing up and the price is going nuts. So crypto's all in the news right now. So all of that kind of combined together is just going to create like a perfect storm here. And short term, the volatility is probably going to be quite high in either direction. Going to go up, going to go down, right? But long term, the growth prospects for Coinbase are there. It follows a lot of what the crypto markets do. It's definitely very, very, very hyped up in terms of like how much it can grow from here as well. I'm sure they're not just going to be a transactional business forever where they rely on crypto trading fees. They're going to lean into their other business kind of units here over time. But yeah, in general, this is going to be the biggest thing. You may be watching the refuel before this goes live. I think early afternoon, maybe 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US. This is expected to list directly on the exchange here, but you may be watching it after. I mean, I'm just really, really curious to see what happens here. I think I'm going to be in bed by the time it lists. I think it's about 8 hours from when I'm recording this, so I'm definitely going to be sound asleep. So it's going to be fun to wake up tomorrow morning and have to catch up on all this stuff, that's for sure. But yeah, I think this is going to be really huge for crypto overall, and I'm really excited to see this kind of play out over the coming months. And speaking of that, you can actually track all of this. We use using the Block's new data dashboard for Coinbase here. So there's a bunch of different kind of metrics here, tracking revenue, gross profit, verified users, and things like that. I mean, Coinbase has almost 60 million verified users here. That's pretty crazy, right? And then a bunch of other different metrics here. So yeah, definitely go check that out if you want to get more information about Coinbase. There's one more thing here. Binance is listing Coinbase's stock token on their exchange as well. So you can trade like fractions of a stock on there and things like that. I thought this was quite funny considering Binance is in direct competition with Coinbase. But at the end of the day, if they don't list the stock, it's not going to change anything. The stock's still probably going to go like hard, and Coinbase, the business, is still gonna grow. So I think that this is just a way for them to generate some more revenue and hype around the exchange. I mean, the tweet itself got some insane engagement. I mean, over 10,000 likes and a lot of retweets and stuff like that. So yeah, it was quite interesting to see this. But if you want to trade Coinbase's stock on a crypto exchange, then Binance offers this, FTX offers this, of course, so you can go do that there. But yeah, that's really, really exciting. We'll see how it all plays out over the next few days. So speaking of exciting things coming out in the future, Vivek here put a really interesting tweet out today, which basically just summarized all the kind of really exciting things we have to look forward to in the crypto ecosystem, but specifically the Ethereum ecosystem. So obviously in April, we have the Coinbase IPO. We obviously have the Berlin network upgrade going live in the next day or so. I think it's less than 30 hours now. In May, we have Uni V3 going live. I do think that Layer 2 for Uniswap is going to go live in May as well. We have other Layer 2s going live before this too. Like I'm expecting Arbitrum to go live very soon as well. June, he says he has a summer break. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be stuff happening in June, right? July, obviously, AIP 1559 is tentatively slated for that. And optimistic rollups being Optimism's public mainnet launch. That's what they said. July. Hopefully they don't miss that date again. August, zkPorter L2, which was announced yesterday, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. And then end of 2021, we might get the merge. Now, this is just some things. I mean, there's plenty of other things to look forward to. And this is to say nothing about, most of the other stuff coming to the different apps on Ethereum, right? Like Uniswap, obviously V3 is going to be huge, but there's so many other things coming to different apps that it's going to be just as big. Obviously the main themes to watch right now are the Layer 2s, the 1559, the general scalability and the merger, right? And he didn't even mention that in May, I think maybe June or July as well, we're going to have the first ETH2 network upgrade as well. So I was talking to a friend today actually, and I was saying to him, like, we talk about all this bullish stuff constantly about Ethereum, and we just hardly ever talk about ETH2. And ETH2 is like a massively bullish thing that's coming. It's just that it's not in like, I guess, the main Ethereum kind of ecosystem right now. It's like it's separate thing. But it was just funny that we were talking so much about all these different things happening, and we just didn't even talk about ETH2 until we both realized, we're like, oh wow, it's actually happening, right? It exists. So that's quite funny as well. But yeah, really great tweet from Vivek here. I think it was a great way to kind of put in perspective what we have to look forward to over the next few months in Ethereum land. So Justin Drake put out another interesting kind of tweet today about ETH's ultrasound money properties. So basically what he's done with this graphic is he's taken the 30-day and 100-day moving average of the transaction fees on Ethereum, so the gas fees, and he's basically put like these kind of like labels here for Ultra Mach 1, Mach 2, Mach 3, Mach 4, and depending on how much ETH is being burned each day, he kind of like calls it a different name here. So essentially the chart, if we got to Ultra Mach 4, we're at just above 2 right now. We would be at 4 if based on the 30-day and 100-day moving averages. We would be burning 4 times more ETH that is being issued by proof of stake, which basically corresponds to a 2% yearly supply decrease under an EIP 1559 world and under a proof of stake world. And obviously he's made some assumptions here. You can see on the left-hand side, there's 2 main assumptions here. The first being that 20 million ETH is staked. For reference, currently there's 3.9 million ETH staked. So the more ETH staked, the higher the POS issuance is. So he's being very aggressive here, or at least, conservative about this. I would think that 20 million ETH stake we're probably not going to see for a while, if ever. Maybe we see 10 million, but 20 million seems like a pretty big target at this point. And then the second assumption is that there's a 70% fee burn. Now, is it hard to know exactly how much of the fees is going to get burned? Is it going to be 30%, 50%, 70%? It's not going to be 100%, but we won't know until 1559 is kind of like included here. But the fact that we're already up to, based on kind of like the moving average here, we're already kind of up to Ultra Mark 2, and I don't think layer 1 fees, like even though Flashbots has kind of decreased the spikes in them and they're not like super high, I don't think layer 1 fees are ever going to be, back down to cheap levels again. I think they're always going to be, high and pricing out pretty much like most use cases, and eventually layer 1 chain just becomes the settlement chain for high value transactions and for layer 2s and things like that, which is fine. It still means that ETH is getting burned. Lots of fees are being paid, which is really cool as well. So yeah, I mean, Justin's done some very good work here memeing the ultrasound money thing. I know that a lot of people might think it's cringe or whatever, but I think it just like takes the existing sound money meme and kind of makes fun of it in a way, right? But in a way that can be mean, because you can just like use the bat signal here, right? Which is pretty funny. You can kind of meme about ultrasounds in general. Like I've seen a few memes about like an ultrasound being done on a pregnant woman and like ETH being the baby, which I thought was quite funny. So I think any good kind of meme lends itself to other memes around it, and it divides people, right? There are memes that a lot of people think are really crappy, but they're really popular. So I think that adds to like the kind of like viral nature of it as well. So yeah, really, really nice chart from here. I can't wait for 1559 to go live. So this is not just theoretical anymore, it's actually being practiced. And I can't wait till, someone creates like an Ethereum gas burn bot where they track how much ETH is burned each day based on the gas fees paid. So yeah, that's going to be really fun to retweet pretty much every day. So a Big Sky, who is a community member at Indexcoop here, tweeted out this interesting kind of supply breakdown for the Indexcoop's AUM. So as a lot of you will know, a lot of different kind of DeFi protocols have yield farming on them where they're paying out tokens for a TVL, for example, right? Or for AUM. Now, the Indexcoop has $158 million worth of AUM here, but 82% of it is unincentivized, which means only 18% of it is incentivized by index tokens. So only 18% of that AUM is being rewarded with index tokens. And I think this doesn't just apply to Indexcoop, but I think in general, this is a metric that should be applied to every DeFi app. Because if you're incentivizing AUM, there's normally mercenaries, right? Mercenaries and people, they're just farming it and dumping the token, and they're not like capital that's going to stay. A lot of the time, they're not capital that's going to actually use the app after the incentives run out, right? So I think tracking this unincentivized TVL is really, really a really great way to see just how much your core user base is growing. The user base that doesn't care about the token incentives, that just wants to use the actual products that you come out with. Now, of course, the Indexcoop has products like the DeFi Pulse Index, which is very popular, the ETH Leverage Index as well, a flexible leverage index to fly, and the Metaverse Index that was released recently. So, it makes sense, right? People want to use these products. Like, you want to use the DPI because you want exposure to DeFi. You want to use the Fly product because you want leveraged ETH exposure. Metaverse Index for exposure to the metaverse, all these sorts of things. So I think that's really important to pay attention to, and I hope other kind of DeFi apps, start marketing this kind of stuff, or start tweeting out about this kind of stuff here. So zkSync made waves yesterday by announcing this new L2 construction that they've come up with called zkPorter. Now, what this is basically an EVM-enabled layer 2 that they are planning to ship in August. Now, what's really funny about a lot of these kind of like L2s right now is that they're beating their chest. if you imagine like, primal humans in their ape form beating their chest to try to show off their strength, right? That's exactly what all these layer 2s are doing. And that's why I call them like the layer 2 wars or the scalability wars. Because you can even see in this graphic, they've kind of compared what they've created with zkPorter to both optimistic rollups and zk rollups. But they're basically saying, zkPorter coupled with zk rollups is better than kind of optimistic rollups here. Now, there's details in the post about kind of why they say this, and there's a thread here as well, and kind of like why they think their solution's better. And Vitalik actually posted a rebuttal to this too, and Alex from zkSync also posted a rebuttal to Vitalik's rebuttal, which is in this Reddit thread, which you can go check out in the YouTube description. But essentially, what it comes down to with these layer 2 solutions is where they store the data. So you may know, I won't go through exactly how this kind of works in detail. You can read the post for this. But essentially, you can either store the data on-chain, on Ethereum, or off-chain. Now, if you store the data off-chain, you're relying on essentially what's called a data availability committee, or some kind of like, entity to make sure that the data that you need is available to you. Now, there are worries around this where basically the kind of detractors say, well, if there's like an offline data availability community, then really you're not getting Ethereum security because you're relying on these kind of like data providers to provide the data, right? And if they don't, they could kind of like, freeze the system, steal your funds sort of thing. And there's a lot of back and forth going on right now. It's very hard to kind of know who's right and who's wrong and who's more right or who's more wrong or whatever, right? I think at this point in time, what I am just waiting for is these things just to go to a public mainnet. That's it. Just show me what you got, right? Don't tell me what you've got. Show me what you've got. I'm bullish on all the L2 teams. I think they've got incredibly smart people behind them. But, this kind of like chest beating and this marketing, not just from zkSync, from everyone. Like, all the L2 teams do it, right? And that's fine. They're not the only ones who do it. Like, the DeFi apps do it, right? Every product does it. That's just part of marketing. But I just want to see this stuff go live, right? I'm just, hyping it and teasing it and everything's all well and good. Like, yeah, cool, awesome. But at the end of the day, users just care about using it. And people who are kind of following along with this just want to see that it's live, just want to see that it actually does what the kind of like developers claim that it does. And I'm not saying it doesn't do what they claim that it does. But, there's only so much you can like trying to chest beat about things and then kind of like without releasing something. Now, zkSync is promising a testnet in May for this. And then obviously they're promising their mainnet in August here. Taking data with a grain of salt. I don't want to repeat of what happened with Optimism again for any of this sort of stuff. I think that's why a lot of the L2s aren't really giving dates right now. I know Arbitrum hasn't given a date. Starkware is not really giving, dates for the apps that they're deploying. They have given a date for certain things like Caspian. I said that was going to go live in like June or something like that. But in general, like dates in Ethereum is something I take with a huge grain of salt. Especially after what happened with optimistic rollups, public mainnet launch. But yeah. Anyway, not to be too negative here, this is really bullish if it works. I just want to kind of like stay grounded, right? I don't want any more of this kind of, like super hyped up stuff that everyone gets disappointed by when it doesn't meet people's expectations. Managing expectations is something that I think more people, or at least the ecosystem in crypto as a whole, should practice more of, because we really don't do a good job of it. We really love to hype things up. And it's simple. You hype things up because you have a monetary kind of investment in it, right? You want to make money. You want to hype up a token that you're holding so that it goes up in value. That's fine. I mean, we all do it. I do it for ETH. There's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. But yeah, I just can't wait to see these things live and usable, and these claims kind of like put to the test by a live environment on mainnet here. So yeah, as I said, there's this response on Reddit. You can go check this out. It'll be in the YouTube description. It's pretty good from Vitalik and then Alex's response as well. And they also did a response thread here too, which you can find linked in a reply to my kind of tweet here, which of course is in the YouTube description as well. Speaking of layer 2s, dydX continues to grow here. So their layer 2 perpetuals exchange is growing. They have $70 million of weekly volume, $15 million in open interest. They have positive funding rates right now and zero gas fees on layer 2 with a bunch of different assets that they're trading. I mean, I spoke a lot about dydX yesterday, so I won't go too deep into it right now. But essentially, I mean, the same thing that I said yesterday, this is just going to keep growing. It's going to grow much faster than I think people expect it will. And it's going to get to, I think, billions of dollars in trading volume over the next few months. So I'm pretty bullish of that for sure. So Blocknative released their Blocknative Simulation Platform last yesterday, that they're calling a net new capability for the Ethereum ecosystem that unlocks profit potential for traders and helps protocols intercept malicious transactions. Now, this is timely because, I spoke about MEV the other day and flashbots and things like that. Now, what this simulation platform does is it basically allows people to simulate all marketable pending transactions in real time. So essentially, when transactions go into the mempool, some of them you don't exactly know what they're going to do until they've kind of executed. But what this platform allows you to do is it allows you to essentially simulate any kind of transaction that you want using this platform to see if it's going to succeed or not, or to see what other people are doing. And this is actually what a lot of people do with their MEV activities, where they would actually set up bots, and they'll kind of instruct these bots to do something, and they'll run their own simulations on their own kind of PCs and things like that, but it doesn't cover everything, right? There hasn't been a generalized platform for this sort of stuff, and that's what Blocknative is doing here. And the reason why this is important is because there's been, as I explained the other day, there were sandwich bots kind of doing kind of like sandwich, MEV and front running people, and they kind of like got exploited by someone because their simulations were wrong. Essentially, they basically fell for some poisonous tokens, which was quite funny to see, right? But still, not something that I guess like traders and people who are trying to extract MEV want to happen here. So yeah, this is basically what Blocknative's new platform allows you to do here, and you can go use it yourself. This is really going to apply to people who want to participate and do MEV, or just traders in general that want to see what's going on in the mempool, or just anyone in general, right? Basically, it does what people like to call illuminates Ethereum's dark forest. The dark forest being the mempool, the pending transaction pool there. So yeah, really exciting launch here from Blocknative. You can see here, I don't know how many of you are going to, play around with this, like of your viewers. I'm assuming a lot of you aren't, traders or like super technical people, or people that are doing some kind of MEV stuff. But this definitely helps a lot with that, and it helps the developers as well to kind of see what's going to happen if you were to simulate certain transactions and stuff like that. So yeah, even if you're not any of those traders or developers or whatever, still something to go check out, play around with, something to learn about. I think it's just really cool. It basically, what it does is it allows you to basically look into the future, essentially, because you get to simulate what a transaction will do if it was actually to execute on the Ethereum mainnet, right? If it was actually to be mined into a block, which basically allows you to, to see into the future. So I always think of this meme, from the Avengers movies, where Doctor Strange is basically saying, I saw like millions of futures and only one of them did we succeed, sort of thing. It's the same with this. Like, you can go see like lots and lots of different futures, and there may only be one where your simulation succeeds, and then you might be like, wow, if I do this, I can make a profit, right? And I can win. That's what this platform gives you. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more and doing more stuff with that, definitely go check out this post from Blocknative here. All right, onto the last bit of news here, which I think is one of the biggest pieces of news from the last 24 hours. There was a lot, but this is essentially ConsenSys announced that they closed a $65 million formation round, basically a fundraise, from different kind of partners, including Mastercard, JPMorgan Chase, Maker, Protocol Labs, which is behind Filecoin, and something called the Greater Bay Area Homeland Investments Limited, which has a bunch of Chinese characters there. It must be an Asian-based kind of company here. I think Fembushi Capital, from Asia. And there's a bunch of other firms as well, including the Lao, Alameda Research behind FTX here, a bunch of other kind of ecosystem participants as well. And essentially, this is going to allow ConsenSys to focus on basically bringing DeFi and Web3 apps to the enterprise sector, which is, look at this. We have Visa doing, settling on the Ethereum mainnet. We have Mastercard partnered with or invested in ConsenSys here. We have Maker as like a DeFi app invested in ConsenSys here. I think ConsenSys is really great in the enterprise sector. You don't see a lot of it going on in terms of like the public kind of stuff that's going on, but you see a lot of it come to fruition over time, and it takes longer because obviously enterprise corporate stuff just takes longer to get done. But I think this is like super positive here. And you remember the other day I think I mentioned on the Refuel that they released MetaMask for institutional investors as well, or institutional clients, which kind of falls into the enterprise sector here. I'm sure they're going to allow like all the enterprise clients that they have to use all of these kind of tools that they have, like Infura, Truffle, ConsenSys Diligence, which is their smart contract auditing firm, Quorum, which is basically a Hyperledger Besu, which is like an enterprise-ready Ethereum client. I mean, there's so many things that ConsenSys does, and a lot of this stuff is definitely done behind the scenes here. Definitely not like very public like other kind of I guess companies and apps are within the ecosystem, but nonetheless extremely bullish. And just seeing kind of like JPMorgan invest is not surprising because they've worked closely with ConsenSys before on Quorum, which was a fork of Go Ethereum. And I think ConsenSys, I guess, acquired their kind of like blockchain development kind of, I guess, sector here. And then, yeah, they invested in it. Protocol Labs and Filecoin, I mean, IPFS, Filecoin, Protocol Labs, they all have a very close relationship with the Ethereum ecosystem, and so do Protocol Labs. They have a huge treasury as well, huge war chest, and I think Filecoin being a utility chain is going to add a lot of value to Ethereum over the long term as well. Same with other things like Arweave, other utility chains there, which I think are pretty positive too. So yeah, really bullish news out of ConsenSys here, and I think that's it for today. I mean, I went through a lot. I think I sped through it here. I'm at 25 minutes, but I think in tomorrow's refuel, it's going to be pretty exciting to go over what happened on the Coinbase direct listing, right? It's going to be a very wild day, I think. So yeah, strap in and enjoy the day, everyone. I'll be sleeping through it, of course, but I'll catch up tomorrow morning. But anyway, I'll stop rambling for now. Thank you again for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.